Hello folks, welcome to Canal Channel Jose. Today we're gonna be replacing the steering column coupler, and this is a rubber piece that it merges the steering column to the gearbox. So we're gonna be replacing it today. We pay about $10 for it, and it's inexpensive. It's a rubber piece with 4 holes for the bolts that we're gonna be removing, and this is compatible or is can be used on the following cars from a 54 to 77 Beetle, 56 to 74 Carmagia, or you can also use it on a 62 to 73 Type 3, the thing, and or 74. So we're gonna be accessing it through the driver's side, and we already removed the tire. So we're gonna show you where it is located and how to do this replacement. And with that said, let's jump right into it. This is what we're replacing, the coupler, and as you can see, it's 4 holes for the bolts, and it's like kind of like a rubber material with it looks like a tire style thing. So it's a coupler, and we're gonna be replacing this on our Manx. So we already removed our driver's side tire, and right here, that's the coupler. It's all split. It's old. It might be the original one, so we're replacing it. There's 4 bolts that go around, so there's 4 holes, and they two face different ways. So we can put 9/16 or 14 millimeter wrenches, but we found out that 9/16 fit a little bit looser, and 14 millimeter a little bit tight. So we're gonna see which ones work better. But that's the two measurements that you can use to take off these bolts. There's 4 of them, so we clean them so we can start loosening them. So one thing before we start, that the column metal or coupler, once we start bolting it back onto the coupler, cannot be lined up with the um, gearbox. So you see how it's bolted here. Now we go into the other side, and the coupler is offset, so cannot be lined up with the column. So we're going to explain that once we remove the coupler, the rubber piece. So we explain that because that matters. So we're going to start taking this off. So let's take the bolts off. So we just turn our coupler a little bit, as you can see, and there's this braided wire or cable, and it's from that point where the metal meets that gearbox to the column. So that the reason for that is to send ground through it for the horn. So that's how you get your horn ground into the steering column. So make sure that when we take off this, we put it the same way, so you got a horn if you want a functional horn on your car. So that's the reason for that. So now that we undid the 2 bolts that hold the column against the coupler, we can pull back our columns, and then we can start taking the other 2 bolts off so we can remove this coupler from here. So we pull the column back straight about 3 inches or 2 inches just to get this last coupler off. Another thing is that before you start pulling this coupler or the steering column backwards, you want to make sure that you have which angle you took it out. So when you put it back in, it ends up in the same location. So your steering wheel doesn't end up pulling in different areas, because you pull it back and then you move the steering column down here, and then you lose sequence of where it was. Now you're gonna be putting it back, and it's not going to be lined up with the steering wheel. You're going to be having the steering wheel pointing different area. So make sure you pay attention to that, so you end up in the same angles. So now we pull it back and we take out the last bolt. So one thing that we might have is a cotter pin. We have to pull it out, so we were able to loosen the last nut from the bolt. So all the bolts might have that, or maybe just one. So On our case, that we have one, and we have to pull it out, and it was covered on grease, so we had to expose it. And then now we're gonna just pull it out of there. We're gonna cut it, and then we'll have a new one for that. Now that we have taken out the pin, we loosen that nut. So here's the old steering column to the gearbox coupler, and it's all brittle. It's a really bad shape. So this is the original Volkswagen. So we're gonna be replacing it with a new one. And as you can see here, it says Volkswagen original. So now we were talking about don't line up these two evenly like that. You gotta have them offset because the coupler, what it does, it takes some of the vibration from the suspension and the steering, so it limits what's going on into the column. So if you put them line up even with a coupler, you're gonna have a lot of vibration on the steering wheel. So that's why it has to be offset. Where the coupler is to minimize the vibration to the steering wheel. So now we do a little bit of cleanup and we start putting the new coupler in there. So here we have one of the bolts that had a pin, cutter pin through, and the other ones, when now that we clean them up, there was a cutter pin and then somebody sheared them off, and we're gonna take those pieces of metal out of there and we're gonna put new pins through them. And this is how they're supposed to be. So we can put new pins once we put the nut back in. And well, we have the old coupler right here, the new one. The holes match, everything's good. You just gotta line it up pretty good. So same thickness, just because this is brand new and this is uh all brittle and the original one. So now we start putting this one in. So now we're gonna put the bolt with the ground to it. So put the bolt through this and then through the whole structure over here. So now that the coupler is right in there, we're gonna tighten everything and make sure your ground is connected from one side to another side, and the shaft is offset to the gearbox, so they're not connected on the same angle. So now we tighten everything, and then we'll put the cutter pins through each bolt.